All right. What's going on, everyone? Just waiting for some people to trickle in here. Apologies for the late stream. Like 10 minutes, but Wi-Fi sucks here. So blame that. All right. So today, going to be talking about the NBA Finals, Game 2, and just another blown opportunity by the Dallas Mavericks. Then we're also going to talk about the spectacle that was Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani this past week at the Dodgers against the Yankees. But I think that, and I'm not trying to create this narrative, or I'm not trying to dwell on this narrative too much because it's been put out there a lot. I've tweeted about it a bunch of times, but man, I care about the NBA Finals. I care about basketball. That's why I care about the NBA Finals. I could not care less about these NBA Finals. The production value from ESPN, from top to bottom, from their awful commentary team to the graphics they put out there, the score bug, you name it. There is no aura for the NBA playoffs as a whole, especially these NBA Finals. And I didn't want to come on here and, be the boy who cried wolf and not, break down what happened in the game and whatnot. I'm not going to be that person. But I needed to start out by saying this because I could not care less about the NBA right now. And we're going to talk about the NBA Finals. We're going to talk about Game 2. We're going to talk about the blown opportunity from the Dallas Mavericks because there is some interest in the basketball minutia. There's interest in the pure basketball that's put out on the court. These otherworldly type athletes who go out there, they go toe-to-toe with one another, and they perform. And there is some fun in that. And there's a reason why the NBA is as big as it is because of how good the players are and how well the league has marketed these players. But there is a huge drop-off when it comes to the marketing to what they actually put out, the actual product that they put out there. And TNT does a good job of it. ESPN has some serious work to do. I just wanted to get that out of the way because I'm a little infuriated by that. The only good thing they have going for them is Mike Green. And thankfully, we get to listen to him every single year in the finals. Who else is it going to be after that? We're kind of screwed. All right, so let's talk about Game 2 here. This Mavericks team, as good as they have been in the playoffs, they've been 10 times worse in these NBA Finals, in these first two games. In a game in which your opponent goes 10 for 39 from three, Boston was, from three, you lose that game. It makes me seriously doubt whether Dallas is going to be able to win anything the rest of these NBA Finals. They're not going to be favored in Game 3. They're probably not going to be favored in Game 4. Boston could and should sweep this series. Jason Tatum goes 6 for 22, and you still lose by 7 points. Let's talk about how poor Boston shot from beyond the arc at 10 for 39. Dallas was worse at 6 for 28. They go 16 for 24 for the free throw line. If they hit all their free throws, they win the game. That's all you need to know. For whatever reason, the Dallas Mavericks have completely forgotten how to play the game of basketball. And you could give a lot of credit to Boston and the backcourt, their defense, and Drew Holiday and Derek White, who have just done an astonishing job on Luka Doncic, and especially Kyrie Irving. These guys are single-handedly willing the Celtics to a championship. Because you take those guys out of the lineup, you take the defense, you take away the ability to not have to double team either one of those guys, it opens up so much more, specifically on the defensive end, of course, with what Tatum is doing in the roaming for Porzingis, but on the offensive end too. And when you force 15 turnovers, you score 21 points off those 15 turnovers, which Boston did against Dallas. There you go. That's your game right there. You force the turnovers, you get out in transition, and you win the game, especially in a game in which you shoot 10 for 39 from three. It's as simple as that. We could look into all the intricacies of basketball and the individual performances, but the reason why the Celtics won that game last night, and I don't want to hear that it's because of the foul call, they should have called it, they should have. I don't care. You force your opponent to 10 for 39 from three, and you lose the game. That's why you lost the game. It's because you shot even worse from three. You out-rebounded the Celtics. You outshoot them by 2% from the field. And you lose the game. You shoot 6 for 28 from three. Of course you lose the game. And there's no doubt in my mind that this is anyone else. Like you put that. This is why it's so frustrating, because Denver was obviously the better team. I think that Dallas the entire year. I think the two of them matched up. Denver wins. But of course, the Wolves had to come in and rain on our party and beat them, and then fall flat on their faces to the Dallas Mavericks. The Mavericks just are not a good matchup against the Celtics. They're not. I mean, there really aren't any teams in the NBA that match up well against the Celtics, but you could trust Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray to perform in the clutch, to perform in these big moments. And Kyrie Irving has just not been that guy so far. I mean, he's now, I think, 0-12 against the Celtics since he stopped unlucky. You got to perform. And I said this last week. I said, Dallas has no chance in the series unless Luka and Kyrie start performing the way they need to perform. And they're not. And no wonder they're down 0-2. And these live streams, they make those. I have 650 people in this last live stream. I have 5 right now. If you're in this, thank you so much for joining me. You're a real one. Apparently, I need to figure out how to better get my streams out there. But we're still going to roll on because that's what we do here. And again, as I said last week, it'd be doing 2 of these a week, 2 live streams a week, and then 1 pre-recorded video on my YouTube channel. So stay tuned for that. Keep a lookout for all that stuff. But let's keep going with this because I cannot stress enough the importance of Derek White and Jrue Holiday in this series. Their defense has been nothing short of extraordinary. The way they've been able to contain specifically Kyrie Irving in the series has been the X factor in the series. And as good as Porzingis was in game 1, the reason why they won the game, they won the game because they just played better. And Porzingis, of course, was the one who sparked all that. But in game 2, there isn't one singular performance that impacted the game as much as Jrue Holiday's. Man, and Jrue Holiday, there definitely aren't the accolades there that you would think that he has. He's never made an all-star team, but he's a 6-time all-defensive player in the NBA. He's going to win another ring this year. I think there's an argument to be made that Jrue Holiday is a Hall of Fame. I know that's a crazy thing to say. The stats don't necessarily line up there, but he's going to have 2 championships under his belt. You give him another one, and Boston's going to compete for the next 2 to 3 years within this window. They've got the guys under contract. They are going to be competing for the next 3 or 4 years. I know it's a 2 to 3, but I think that window could be extended because Tatum and Brown are just in their prime. Tatum's about to get paid big. Brown is currently the highest paid player in the NBA. I don't know how that's going to work cap-wise, but I'm sure they'll find a way to make it work. And that taxes Boston being a competitive basketball team. And, Jason Tatum gets a lot of flack for falling short and for failing to meet his expectations. And those expectations have been lofty, but for a good reason. Because he's had the best supporting cast of any player who was drafted in that 2018 draft, or the 2018 draft. He has the best supporting cast of any superstar in the league since he came into the league. And superstar, he's a superstar, but I'd argue that it's a stretch right now. And you look at how he operated last night. He filled up the stat sheet with his assists, with his rebounds. 6 for 22 from the field. I mean, this guy, say what you want about some clutch performances in the past, the elimination game performances. The guy just does not perform in the clutch. More often than not, he has had everything handed to him on a silver platter since he came into the league. And last night was another example of just how good the teams have been around him. Name me any other superstar in the league that does that, and their supporting cast wills them to a victory like that. There aren't many. There really aren't many. You look in the Western Conference, you look in the Eastern Conference, none of those teams can get a terrible performance like that and somehow still win the game. Do you want to know why? It's because of the defense. It's because of the defense they provide. It's because they can switch anyone almost on the floor. Porzingis really hasn't been challenged by the Mavs in the way that I think a lot of people expected them to challenge him. Instead of having him run up and down the court, you have him running off screens and pick and rolls and picking pops and picking fades. And that hasn't happened. The Mavericks did not do a great job again offensively the last night. Again, under 100 points, and they lost the game. And that's why. It's because they just couldn't get anything going offensively. The one-on-one game wasn't working. PJ Washington did not have a good game. They weren't able to get the lob as much as they've been able to get the lob in the past. They got a few down the stretch there, but that wasn't good enough. That wasn't enough. And again, it brings me back to this point again of like you're watching this game, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, yeah, it's the NBA Finals. I've been doing a lot of work for my company for Sirius XM NBA Radio, and I'm still thinking, I'm like, does this really feel like the NBA Finals? Like, to anyone out there, and the 6 of you, please feel free to comment in here. Do you really feel like there's any importance to these NBA Finals? Do you turn on the game and you're like, all right, this is a big game? And again, it's not because of the players. The players are as good as they've ever been in NBA history. The skill level is on another level as compared to past generations. I don't want to get into that conversation, but they have been. They're better. The product is not. It's not. The presentation is not. Say what you want about Josh Hart, and it's been great to hear him on these post-game shows and the 2 minutes they give him on halftime. But really, this is who we're rolling out here. That's the team. They didn't even have Stephen A. They are prioritizing first take in the morning. Stephen A., God forbid, he goes out, has a late night, has to wake up early on a Monday morning on 3 or 4 hours sleep because he had to work the night before. They don't even have their A-team guy on these post-game shows. Like, who cares? And again, this isn't a shot at Josh Hart, and congratulations to him for getting that opportunity to be on an NBA Finals panel. But who cares? And as someone who could not care less about hockey, the Stanley Cup Finals have it's not the presentation. Again, it's ESPN. They don't do a great job of it. I do think Sean McDonough elevates that to another level. I know there's a lot of hockey fans out there who aren't huge fans of him, but I think he brings that to another level, along with just the feeling, the aura that you get from watching the Stanley Cup Finals. There's just so much energy. I understand the hockey playoffs are just, they're otherworldly. There's no sport that even touches it. But either way, there's no doubt in my mind when watching that, it's like night and day between that and the NBA. And I know I literally just spent 12 minutes talking about the NBA Finals in Game 2 last night, which if you're watching this, I'm assuming you watched as well. But like, I can't help but just call this out for what it is. An unenjoyable product. Not an unenjoyable product, an unenjoyable watching experience. Do you remember as a kid, like, I'm 23 years old. I remember growing up watching those Celtics-Lakers series and thinking that it was life or death. Thinking that these guys would kill each other on the court. With the Larry O'Brien trophy at midcourt, with the finals logo, even after that, up until I want to say like 2017, 2018, once they ripped it away from us. And now there's no good feeling behind any of this. There really isn't. And it's unfortunate now that we haven't had any close games. I mean, last night you could say it was a close game. I'd argue that there was no chance that Dallas could win that game up until 45 seconds left. When PJ Washington got blocked or whatever, there was a foul. It's unfortunate now that I think there's just not that many people who care about this series. I think a lot more people, and maybe that's a byproduct of why my stream has 7 people in it right now, as compared to 700 the other day, is that maybe people care more about this series, and then a lot of people watched last night, and they're like, why do I care about this? Why am I tuning into this every night? Again, one part of that is the fact that the Celtics are that much better than Dallas. The other part of that is what you're watching doesn't feel big. It does not feel like life or death. There is zero aura to the NBA playoffs, specifically the NBA Finals. And when you have Doris Burke and JJ Redick alongside Mike Breen, there's no familiarity. I said that wrong. Familiarity. I don't even know. With this NBA Finals. You take Mark Jackson away, you take Jeff Van Gundy away, ESPN sold out. They decided to pay Pat McAfee, and they probably didn't have the money to pay those two guys. They had such great camaraderie, and again, like the fact that you knew you were going to turn on these NBA playoffs and you're going to be watching those 3 guys. And again, there are a lot of times when they went off topic where they were talking about completely oblivious, the completely irrelevant things. Jeff Van Gundy sounded completely oblivious as to what was going on the court. But that was more enjoyable than having to listen to Doris Burke. And Doris Burke, I'm not taking anything away from what she's done, becoming the first woman to ever commentate a championship series in all 4 major sports. That's an awesome accomplishment. She knows what she's talking about. I don't want to listen to her. Objectively, I could not care less to have to listen to what Dorsberg says. I hear a lot of favoritism. I hear a lot of bias in what she said. I hear a lot in specifically the games that the Knicks play against other teams from Dorsberg. So I don't want to hear it again when my team isn't in it. Understand, that's fine, but I just don't want to hear it. JJ Redick's fine. I mean, can you imagine if it was Doc Rivers? Can you imagine if Doc Rivers actually heeded his own advice that he gave the owner of the Milwaukee Bucks as to not hire him? I mean, imagine if he was calling this series. I mean, this would be one of the most it's already unenjoyable, but it would be to the nth degree. So thankfully for JJ Redick, but I don't understand what ESPN is doing. I really don't. And it's sad that this has become the bigger topic of discussion over the basketball that was actually played, but it needs to be said. Because I'm infuriated with it. I'm fed up. I don't enjoy turning on the NBA Finals and watching. I mean, again, I enjoy watching the players, and I enjoy watching the guys who go out there and as I said before, are otherworldly athletes, the best product in terms of talent that we've seen put out in NBA history. It's completely brought down by the production and the presentation value. And let's hope in a year and a half, NBC changes that. But that's taking away from TNT. TNT wasn't the problem. It's ESPN. And ESPN just got to get its head out of its ass and fix whatever they have going on. And Adam Silver has to fix the presentation in terms of what they put out on the court. Because you need the Finals logo on the court. You can't have a superimposed image on there. People know that's not real. I could not care less about the NBA Finals because of the NBA and what ESPN has done to the sport of basketball. And what is that theme song? This is my biggest thing with ESPN. They had a pretty solid theme song. Da, 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 da. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And now the one they have, switch it up for the Finals. Switch it, change something up. There's no feeling to what we're watching because it's a stupid song. I sound like an idiot talking about this. I don't care. This is what I think is important. Because this should not be the topic of discussion. And the amount of people that you saw on Twitter, whatever you want to call it, complaining about this exact same thing, now you understand why I'm so frustrated. Because I am not alone in my belief here. It's extremely frustrating and unenjoyable, as I've said multiple times here. All right, enough with this. Hopefully we can get a good game 3. Hopefully we can get a good game 3. I could come on Thursday after game 3 and talk about actual basketball for more than 8 minutes and not the terrible production. If we get good basketball, it is going to take away from how awful the production value has been for ESPN. All right, let's get into this other thing. Speaking of ESPN, last night we saw Aaron Judge versus Shohei Ohtani in what has been marketed more than I've ever seen anything marketed over these last few weeks. MLB puts out 3. I mean, there was an Apple TV game, which I'd say doesn't count because I honestly don't know anyone who's Apple TV. I'm sure there are a lot of subscribers out there, but I do not know any of them. They put out a game on Fox, and they had a game last night at Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, and I wouldn't say that all 3 games delivered in the hype and the excitement, but what I will say last night, and again, and there are some there are levels to this. That MLB, of course, they're promoting these guys. They're marketing the hell out of them because Major League Baseball has not done a good job of that in the past, which a lot of people have correctly pointed out. So they've changed things up. They have this otherworldly, transcendent superstar in Shohei Ohtani, who extends past the game of baseball to just a cultural icon, a guy who could do everything on a baseball field. He's like a myth. He's not a real person. And fortunately, his translator took the blame, took the fall. I think Ohtani was involved in that gambling scheme. That's another story for another day. But Ohtani is that number 1 guy. And walking around the city these past few days, I saw a lot of people in Dodger jerseys. I saw a lot of people in Ohtani jerseys. So I think Major League Baseball did a very solid job in building this up. And unfortunately, Juan Soto didn't play in any of those games, but Aaron Judge delivered as he has the last month and a half. I mean, that guy is just unbelievable. He really is. there isn't really much more you could say about Aaron Judge right now other than the fact that he is the best player in baseball, objectively. Since Ohtani's not pitching right now, Aaron Judge is the best player in baseball. He's the front runner for MVP. Juan Soto is second. And the Yankees just somehow and some way need to continue whatever they are doing. They need to keep winning. They cannot take their foot off the gas pedal like this is 2022 for the All-Star break when everything unraveled. The Yankees didn't do anything in the playoffs. They made the ALCS. Boo-hoo. I mean, that was pathetic performance against the Astros, getting swept in the ALCS. The last time they made the playoffs was then, and now is different. You have to capitalize on this year. You need to cash in on whatever you have with Juan Soto because who knows, he may not be here past next year. So, all right, that'll do it for today's live stream. I'm going to cut it short. I mean, not getting much traction today, but I will figure out the algorithms. I will figure out why the hell I had 550 people or 600 people, and I only have 8. So that'll do it for today's stream. I'm Bryce Gelman. Again, as I said earlier, 2 streams a week, 2 live streams, and then 1 pre-recorded video with a guest every other week, all coming your way. So stay tuned for all of that. Thank you all for coming out and watching this live stream.